Good morning. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the March 21st Governing Board meeting. We're going to do a little housekeeping. Clearly, I don't have to read my first paragraph. So, first we're going, if you're able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We do have a quorum, minus one director, an excused absence. We will look for the February 22nd minutes for approval. If there are no changes or corrections, we will accept the minutes. Will stand as written. Okay, good. Karen? Thank you. Thank you. I know we've already done this once this season, but we're going to go ahead and do it again. We're going to recognize the Spring 2024 Torch Mat Academy class. If there are any in attendance, would you please stand? Thank you. And the board will see you later today for your graduation. Now we'll go to 4.02. I'm sorry, 4.01. Oh, that must be why Cliff is coming to the podium. As you can tell, we have a very active agenda today, and we're trying to move things along. So welcome, Cliff, for the 2024 February year-to-date financial review.
Good morning, Director Vines. Thank you, and good morning, Governing Board, and good morning, community. I'm glad to see you all here. And I think Lisa has just sent me a message by saying we're going to move things along, so I better get moving here. So I'm happy to present the February year-to-date financial statements. This is kind of boilerplate stuff, but basically what we're going to do is roll through the top portion of the income statement, which is the operating portion, and talk about how we're tracking through February compared to budget and compared to prior year. And then we'll move down in the capital section and talk about reserve fund stuff, kind of reserve fund impact when it comes to APF fees and reserve fund allocation and investment valuation, realized and unrealized gains and losses. And then we'll move into the capital budget and talk about where we're at year to date in terms of our capital budget spend. So with that said, get started. So in February, I said on Tuesday at Budget and Finance, golf carried the day, and golf did carry the day. But this is indicative of this time of year with the great weather, just having the community out and active, and it's just a wonderful thing, and that's why we're all here. So we had a very good month in terms of revenue, 46,000 favorable, golf 76,000 favorable. We got aggressive last year on our events and had anticipated selling more tickets than we actually sold for the month of February. We're doing some analysis on that to figure out why, but I will say we got very aggressive in the budget process last year when we put the events budget schedule together, and it's not unfortunately working out to what we thought. However, I will say that when we report the events, we report it in gross income. So basically what that means is we take our receipts from our event ticket sales and we deduct from that our ticket sales cost and our act cost and all the things like white tie and things that go into put that production together, and we report that in gross or in net gross cost of sales. So we take the sales and deduct the cost of sales and report that on the top end of the income statement to show the gross amount. So I guess my point of saying that is it's not that we're losing money in events, we're making less money than we thought we would make. Okay? So with that said, 46,000 favorable for the month. On the expense side, gonna do a little victory lap here. It's a pretty good budget, so I'm gonna say that for the management team and the finance team. Came in right at budget, 31,000 favorable on 2.2 million in expense for the month of February. So altogether, operations 77,000 favorable at a positive cash inflow to the association of 951,000. Looking versus prior year, we're up 152,000 for the month of February in cash inflow, and expenses budgeted for, and then revenue higher. That higher in revenue is due to golf rounds, mainly the increase in revenue, and then the increased fees that we put in last year's budget. But it's higher than what we had anticipated because of the number of golf rounds. In prior year, we had a lot more rainouts and weather events and frost delays and things like that that impacted the golf rounds. So taking a look at February year to date, so through the first 8 months, we are 75,000 favorable in operating revenue. And you can see same kind of story that I talked about in the month of February, where those pluses and minuses are coming in. But overall, 75,000 favorable on 18.2 million in revenue for the first 8 months of fiscal year 2024. Looking at the expense side, we got some kind of movers and shakers in here, so some big swings. I'll talk about that. On wages and benefits, open positions, as well as we had budgeted a $1 increase in minimum wage. So the minimum wage came in at a 50-cent increase, so half of what we budgeted to take effect in January. So through the first 2 months of the year, we had a 50-cent favorable compared to budget on the minimum wage. But we do have some open positions. I will say we also have some positions that we decided not to fill in this budget, and we decided not to fill them intentionally because we're using some outside services and landscape to take care of some of the facilities. So not golf per se, but the other facilities in the community, the landscape division that we have that takes care of that. We decided to supplement instead of replacing those employees at a savings to the association. But overall, 207,000 favorable. We also had a large, to the tune of 170,000 savings in golf seed this year. It came in, the prices came in flat over prior year. I'm sorry, less than prior year. So it worked out really well in terms of grass seed for the golf courses. Overall, 282,000 favorable. So through the year, we've basically operated at a cash outflow of 437,000, and then we'll go from the red into the black with the month of March in terms of overall operating cash inflow. So that's a 282,000 favorable variance from the budget. Compared to prior year, which is always good to look at. It's one thing to budget, but it's another thing to say, how are we doing compared to the prior year? So compared to the prior year, we were 164,000 favorable. We were minus 600,000 through February last year. This year, we're minus 437,000. We hope to carry that favorable as we move throughout the year. Some of the things impacting those individual revenue and expense line items. So let's take a look at a couple of the key drivers. Obviously, we talk about it all the time. Wages and benefits are 64% of our overall expense structure here. So those tend to be the big movers and shakers. Our second largest expense is utilities at 11%. So utilities and wages and benefits make up 75% of our overall expense structure. So with that said, 755,000 increase in wages and benefits, all budgeted for, but that's the increase year over year in wages and benefits. And then on utilities, 254,000. We kind of missed the mark on the budget on that. Unfortunately, we had a very hot late summer and early fall. You're all aware of that, and that created a large kilowatt difference, 12% increase in kilowatt for running the pumps at the golf courses and running the air conditioners and the pool pumps. So, fortunately, we've made that up in other areas. So, let's take a look at we're going to move down to the capital portion of the income statement. And I guess the best way to explain this section of the income statement and what to pay attention to is everything in this section has a dollar for dollar impact in our reserve fund. So that's why this section is important. So, for example, estimated reserve fund allocation, that's the money that we set aside from operations to put into our reserve fund. That's right on budget for the month of February. APF fees go right into our reserve fund and fund new capital projects and repair and replacement. So for the month of February, 38,000 favorable. Taking a look at our realized and unrealized gains and losses, we used to present these together, and we had a request to break those out so the community can see what we're realizing in terms of gains and losses that are actual, and then what we're seeing in valuation change, which are unrealized. So for the month of February, we had a valuation change, an unrealized negative impact of $228,000 in our roughly $27 million investment reserve account. Total for the month of minus 147 compared to budget. Now, we don't budget swings in our reserve account, so that's where the major difference is. So if you look at the other areas, we're actually positive. Taking a look at prior year, in prior year, we had a $747,000 decrease or unrealized loss in our investment account. So we have a favorable compared to prior year in that line item. But compared to prior year in APF fees, compared to prior year in investment income, 77,000 direct impact into the reserve fund positive. Looking at year to date, 412,000. We're tracking 412,000 ahead in APF fees. We'll talk about why that is compared to budget in a little bit, but we've had more home sales. I guess that's the easiest way to explain that. Than what we had budgeted. Taking a look at our estimated reserve fund allocation, right on budget at $654,000, and then investment income, again, positive to the reserve fund. Those funds stay in the reserve fund and get reinvested. But $278,000 favorable there, and then we have a year-to-date realized loss of $250,000 and a year-to-date unrealized gain of $592,000. For a total of $1.2 million favorable in the capital section. Compared to prior year, we're ahead $1.4 million, and APF fees are the largest driver there, and of course, the valuation change that we've had year to date in our reserve fund account is almost $1.3 million favorable to prior year. So again, when we look at the budget, our APF revenues, when we look compared to prior year, our APF revenues are up, partially because of the $800 increase that we put in APF, the APF rate, but also because of the increase in the APF transactions of 15. So 651,000. Again, we talked about the reserve fund valuation change, the favorability there, and then the investment income that we're receiving from that investment account is up 261,000 compared to prior year. So overall, the overall revenues over under expenses, incorporating the operating section and the capital section, we are about $1.5 million favorable to budget. and then compared to prior year, 1.6 million favorable. So switching over to our capital improvement budget, I want to talk about how we're tracking and what that looks like year to date through February. Good news here, we had in this year's budget, so in FY24, we had roughly $5.5 million in capital improvement budget, and we're tracking about a little over $500,000 favorable in there. So we've completed projects and we've had savings for whatever reason, and we'll talk about some of those, but we've had a savings of $500,000 on that $5.5 million. Again, that all stays in the reserve fund. So those funds just don't come out of the reserve fund. So they stay in there. They don't get allocated somewhere else. Those monies stay in the reserve fund. So with that said, this is a listing. There's 2 pages here of all the capital projects that were in last year's budget, or last year's budget presentation, this year's budget. And you'll see in here where the savings, where the pluses and minuses are on all the projects. 2 major drivers here. One is in the budget, we had a couple of paving projects throughout the community. And based on our soil sampling, we were able to save in soil stabilization in some of those areas, which created a very nice reduction in those capital improvement projects. And then the other big one, and I want to give Todd Patty a plug here because he's been here for decades, a few of those decades, and basically through his experiences and what he's learned, the community benefits greatly from that. And one of the areas that we've been addressing at our golf courses is our water retention. And we had a project on the books to do a lakeshore, and the project was on the books for about $250,000, and he was able to accomplish the water retention there through doing a riprap and a water treatment that looks very nice. If you've driven by Grandview on Meeker, something like that, where it looks like that. And that was at a $200,000 savings. So again, it's good to have that knowledge and here for the community. But that was a large savings there. So we thank him for that. Okay, so in our capital budget is a $400,000 for allowances. We had a well pump go out this year, which is roughly $120,000 to replace. So that's $120,000 of that. $268,000 is from one well pump. But unspent allowances year to date of $132,000 roughly, and then in here we always report what we spend with our allowance funds. So again, capital projects are $5,000 in value and at least 5 years of useful life. So when we do that, and it's not a specific budgeted item, we use allowances to take care of it. And allowances are for unexpected things, or unplanned things, emergencies, those types of things. So we list out what those are to the community when we spend those funds. And then I like to say it's all about the reserve fund, because it is. At the end of the day, we've got one metric that we go by in our policies, and it's that we have at least 40% of our fully funded balance in our reserve account. So everything revolves around that. And I'm happy to report that we're right on budget at 49%. And those reserve funds, to remind everybody, are used for not only the repair and replacement items on our reserve study that have a over $100 million cost when you add them up, but also for anything new that we do in the community, any new projects that we do, has to be funded from our reserve fund. So we're in great shape through February at 49%. And that concludes my presentation, Director Vines.
Super. Thank you, Cliff. Great presentation. Directors, any questions for Cliff? No. Christine. Thank you.
Yes, surprise. Cliff, I add my kudos. Great job. And thank you for the transparency. So I wanted to, on page 26, really give you a kudos on the transparency on allowance spend. I know that that's been something that has been questioned by me and by some other residents, so really thank you for that. My question, though, is in the budget and finance presentation, you explained to several of the members as well as some of the owner members that stood up some of the softness around tickets and in recreation. Could you take a few minutes for anybody who didn't have a chance to see it and explain a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, please? How do we're not a for-profit organization, so how do we come up with the pricing? Do you remember those? I'm
Yes,
happy
I
to
do.
ask more details, but if you can just give a few, that would be helpful.
Sure. Yes. So, when we put the budget together, we're fortunate we provide, first of all, we provide amenities in this community, and events are one of those. So there are events, there are multiple events throughout the year that we don't charge a ticket to, so they're free. So you can get a ticket, but they're free events. Those are wrapped up into those cost of sales that I talked about earlier that are netted against the overall revenue. So when we report our events income, when we report it on the financial statement, it's reported net of all of those expenses, even the free events. So, but because that's what we do here, right? We do event planning. We're a recreation facility. That's our wheelhouse. That's what we do. So because we do that, we also provide events that will help not only pay for themselves, but also generate income to reduce the amount of member dues that we have to come to the community for. And so like bowling and golf, we can generate income in those areas to help offset other expenses. And so that's how we report that, and that's what we do. As far as what we budgeted, again, we got aggressive last year and maybe a little too aggressive, but we're analyzing that and we're learning from it. Some of it just depends on the type of events that we have. There were some weather impacts early, so it was hot in the fall, so that also impacted our sales. But ultimately, we're trying to provide a service to the community and provide an amenity at a very reasonable cost, and also generate some coin to help offset some of our other expenses. Welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Directors? No? Okay. So we'll go ahead and go to audience questions for Cliff. Wow, I'm shocked with everybody here, no questions. So we do have an online question, I believe. No online question?
We do have an online question, Kay.
I think there is one, yeah. Yeah, Alan, if you wouldn't mind, please read it.
So this question comes from Karen Poe, rec card number 133114. I believe we may have just answered this. She said, question please regarding events net gain loss. Is this for the month of February only? Also, if there is a positive gain, why is there price increases to enjoy events?
I think we touched on all those.
I believe you did just answer it, so thank you. Yeah, I think we're good to go, but happy that she sent in her question, so super. Thanks, Cliff. We'll move on to agenda item 4.02. That we have a motion, annual renewal of Torch Special Committee. I move that the Torch Special Committee be extended through March 2025.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Alan. We have a second. So do we have any discussion? Any audience questions? No, we'll go ahead and vote. We'll just, if there are no, oh, you do have a question? If there's no, we'll just take a unanimous, if I can see nods of heads. Good. Karen? Super. We'll move that one forward. Yay.
Picking up a vibration from something.
I don't know. I'm trying to sit back as far as I can. 4.03, another motion. Annual renewal of the Governing Board Election Special Committee. I move that the Governing Board Election Special Committee be extended through March 2025.
Second.
Thank you, Kay. Open for discussion, directors? None? Any questions from the audience? Having none, again, we'll just do this with a nod of the head. If it's unanimous, we'll move it forward. Thank you. Karen, you good? I think we have gremlins. Okay, 4.04. Oh, 4.0.
No, 4.
Oh, 4.04, right? Thank you, Jack. Listen, I'm having enough trouble over here with my motions. So it's a new policy, MO3, approval of cardholder guest fee policy that had been redlined. Jack, that's you.
That's me. So I move that the governing board approve new policy M03 titled Cardholder Daily Guest Fee Policy as redlined. New policy M03 will replace policy FA08.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Kay. Open for discussion, Jack. We have a second, so now we're open for discussion.
Jack,
Yeah.
Jack, would you mind just doing a very brief summary of that for the?
Very briefly, what the policy is, it's moving it out of a facilities categorization and putting it into a membership category. The verbiage is basically the same. It may be organized a little bit differently with different numbering, but it's the same policy.
Director Novello?
I believe also, just for clarification, that policy includes the previously approved change to make note of the, that's the only other thing to add that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware, Jack.
Yeah, thank you. It does put in there the new wording for guest fees are not applicable for guests under 6 years old.
Correct. Thank you.
And it also adds, it also adds that the sports pavilion and golf operations maintain their own guest and guest fee policies and are not impacted by this policy. Those are the only two additions.
Right. There are no other questions from the directors. We'll entertain audience questions on this. Thank you. You come to the mic and give us your name and rec card number, please, and your name down.
Jolene Piaskowski, 132268. Unless I'm missing it, the old policy had guest credits have no expiration date. Refunds will be made according to the current member refund policy. That's not in the 03, or did I miss it? In the old policy, it was 4.3. In the new policy, we have nothing saying that we can get refunds.
Okay, Kay, does that ring a bell with you?
So what policy?
So in the old F08, 4.3, it says guest credits have no expiration date. Refunds will be made according to the current member refund policy. That's not in the new policy. Is that in a different policy? I mean, I know just working membership that when a house closes, if you have a credit on your member credits, you get it back. But if you, let's just say you put $100 on and no one came and you would like that money back, they should be able to refund that back. That's what that 4.3 policy allows us to do. And then, get a couple more. If we could just put in where we have bowling guests and golf guests, if we could refer to that policy within this policy, So it would make it easy for our members to just find it. I think that would be just a good cross-reference.
So Jolene, so to back up to your previous point, I don't see the reference to 4.3 in this with no expiration date, so that's a good catch.
Okay.
It's a good catch.
I love how you broke up the medical thing. It's great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So if we could put the bowling and the guest, or the golf policy within this new policy, so we have a reference for owner members, it would just be easier for them to see it. Okay, then the other thing is on your new policy, Jack, 4.21, 4.2, yeah, 1. You said, and this was in the last policy, and I just don't understand it, so I just need clarification. Daily guest fee is required for participating by a guest in activities with the exception of bowling and golf, which we know, where separate fees are charged. A daily guest pass fee may not be used to participate in chartered club activities. What does that mean?
What that means is that chartered clubs are only open to Sun City West cardholders. You cannot come here and under the guise of this daily guest fee, come and join a club. So you can't say, okay, here's your pass for the day. You can't go to the wood shop, for example, or the metal shop and expect to be able to use the facilities. If you want to use those facilities, you can do it as a guest of a club member.
Okay, so when I was in the GM Ops meeting a couple months ago, and Lisa brought up the fact that she went to pickleball and she didn't have to pay for her guests because it was club activity time. Where, is that not this?
No,
Because it says a daily guest fee may not be used to participate in chartered club activity time. Did he not say in that GM Ops meeting that that's why you didn't have to pay for your guests because it was club activity time? Do we have a definition of club activity time?
yes, we do.
We do? Is that in the RR&Ps?
Yes.
Okay. Could we reference that then here, so people can look for that definition?
Sure, we can do that.
Thanks. But am I right on the pickleball thing?
If Lisa is a member, if person A is a member of a club and they bring in family, for example, then they do not have to pay this guest fee,
The $6.
the $6, but they can be brought into the club under the rules of the club for their guests. There's a distinction in how the guests are handled.
Is that written somewhere?
Yeah, it's written here, and
Okay.
it's written here, and it's written in the bylaws. Bylaws.
So let me just understand, just trying to get this straight. So I play tennis every Monday. We have
And you're a member of the tennis club.
correct.
Okay.
And so I get a text, I'm sick, I cannot be there. I call a friend at Portobello, she comes to play. She doesn't have to pay my guest fee?
She can't come because a guest must be accompanied by a club member.
I'm playing on Monday. So,
Wait a
no,
minute.
no. So I have 20 players. I get an email from one of those players saying she cannot be there.
Are those 20 players
All-
club members?
Yeah, they're all club members.
Okay.
Okay. And I can't find another person to play. So I reach out to a person in Portobello. She can come and play. I do not have to pay the guest fee. Is that correct?
As long as the club you follow the club's rules for guests, yes, she can
Okay.
play.
Okay. And then the last one, when we have the 4.3, the card holder, the new every 5 years. I've been here for 6.5. So do I need to get a new card? Because this little pretty face has not changed that much. It looks the same. So could we maybe, and I don't know how expensive those cards are. I have no idea. But 5 years seems not a long enough time. Our faces don't change that much in 5 years. Maybe 7 or 10? I don't know what the cost is. I know it's nitpicking, but the cost of a card, and if this is a rule, if it's a rule and I check in and a monitor says, hey, your card is not updated within 5 years, do they have to take me? Do they not take me? How does that, I mean, I'm just saying 5 years is,
They'll just send you to
Short.
they'll just send you to guest services.
but 5 years is a short time. Okay, fine, thank you.
Casey, did you want to elaborate on something we were discussing? Absolutely. Thank you.
My name is Casey Huda. I'm Rec Center Manager. I do not want to take any more time than what's about to add to the agenda. But Jolene, I believe in your example of the pickleball with Lisa, this is when this actually was addressed and why we moved forward with taking this a little bit further. So that ops meeting, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was back in October. So that's about when this started and when we started to address this. So that's why.
Thank you, Casey. You are correct. So, Jack.
So, okay, based upon this, I would I'm not sure what the process is for doing this, but I would amend, I want to rescind my motion because we have to add back in that one statement about not expiring. So is that, Karen, did I do that right? Oh, Bonnie, did I? Oh, I did. Oh, okay. Didn't see Bonnie there. Okay, so then I will commit the motion to the next meeting then. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. We're good to go, Karen? Yep. Thank you. With 4.05, okay. We'll move on to 4.05, which is Director Williams.
Due to the change on the previous one, we will need to continue 4.05 to the next meeting as well. Thank you.
Perfect, Kay. This is great. I don't know if you all are liking it, but I am. Oh, I see a lot of nodding heads out there. That's great. So we'll go to 4.06, which is the new policy MO4, and we'll go back to Jack.
Okay,
Director Leary?
this motion is to approve new policy M04 entitled Open Sports Activity, Leagues, and Tournaments Policy as redlined. I move that the governing board approve new policy M04 entitled Open Sports Activity, Leagues, and Tournaments Policy as redlined.
Thank you, Director Williams. We have a second. We're open for discussion.
I see no discussion.
Any questions on this? Christine? No? Okay. Well, I have a question. So I thought I'd let the other directors go first, but this is just a hypothetical. It just seemed kind of interesting to me, and I don't want the association to get caught potentially in a slippery situation per se. So I'm looking at, say, any one of the clubs, the sports clubs, want to hold a tournament. A member wants to hold a tournament at one of our venues, and they want to have 50 people, and they want to charge $50 each. And so if the association, they go to the association, and the RCSCW wants to charge the member $500. Who is profiting the remainder of that money? Is the member? The remaining balance of that money? Who? Because I don't want to put us in a situation where now we're allowing members to theoretically make money because they're not doing it for the club. they're doing the tournament for themselves, or,
That is a possibility that could happen, yes.
and is the association good with that? I mean, Dick, I'm sorry, Director.
As I recall, the intention of this is if we had a homeowner, and the example was they wanted to have a family tournament. And let's just pretend it's pickleball. And they're going to have 16 or 20 people in their tournament. They want to have it just for their family. They can contract with the rec center, pay X dollars for it, and it's the rec center that's going to determine how much money they charge. It would be moot to us how much money was passed within the family. You know, if they all said they're going to kick in $10 or $20 or whatever it is. What we're interested in is how much is the rec center going to charge, and that was the funds that would come into the rec center.
Lisa?
Director Leary?
So the way this policy is written does not cover what you just described, Dick.
Correct.
It allows, the purpose of this policy is to allow members, currently, let me back up. Members, homeowner card holders are allowed to reserve our sports facilities. They don't have to go through a club to do that, and they can hold tournaments today. So right now, we have no control over that. So what this policy does is it implements a management policy so that we make sure that there's liability insurance and all those types of things that are put into place. What it does not do, it does not regulate what the homeowner may charge those participants. And I'm not sure that it should.
I'm just curious if we're putting this in a position, opening it up to where we're going to allow members to make money off of this.
Make it that could currently happen today. I could go out and charge $50 a head to play pickleball. Reserve 10 courts and do that. But I wouldn't. But the association would have nothing to say today without this policy. So that's a good catch, Lisa. So the question is, does the association want to be in that business, effectively, of renting out our facilities for profit making? I hear mumbling that says no.
Christine, Director Novello?
Thank you all, and thank you, Director Filings. I guess my question, we've been talking about this for quite some time. Without any policy, I think this is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
I do not believe that this is going to set us back. It doesn't open up a loophole, a new loophole. It doesn't close the door on that, though. We've had this discussion, I think, but it's still a really great point to have in an open forum. So while I do not want us to profit from that, I think we're really missing an opportunity to at least take a step in the right direction if we vote this down today.
No, it's an excellent policy. I'm just wondering if there's a loophole somewhere here that we've missed, and do we need to close it for the association, to protect the association, because I don't think we want the members theoretically opening up now for profit.
And for what it's worth, I concur with that. We should close the loophole.
Because it is a great policy. Casey?
Casey Hood again, thank you. So I kind of want to go back a little bit and make sure everybody understands this has nothing to do with charter clubs. You have to take your charter club hat off. So if you want to ask questions about charter clubs, this has nothing in reference to charter clubs. However, the tournament piece, that should be a charter club sanction I don't believe tournaments should be brought in to the community as a separate organization because the homeowner wants to provide some kind of tournament. That's a whole nother issue. I'm sorry to bring this up. It is, I'm a part of a lot of those organizations. Cliff is, Matt is, they know what I'm talking about. So leagues, yes, that goes in with Apple. Apple is not with the club, the charter club, so that kind of falls in line with that. And then West Valley women's tennis, that falls in line with that. So this is absolutely beneficial for something like that. We would not be looking at anything to profit. It was just for liability purposes. So that's all I kind of wanted to say.
So Casey, let me ask you, were you involved in this policy at all? No?
Not really. I saw it and I talked about the tournament piece, but that was it.
So I think suffice to say that perhaps the word tournament should not be in here.
That's for you guys to determine.
I'm just,
but
from your point of view.
yes, from my point of view.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
I
Yeah?
think tournaments should be sanctioned by charter clubs.
Agreed, thank you.
I'm looking, I'm unable to find it right now, but I believe there is an accompanying bylaw that allows the general manager to make these decisions. So I think we should table this again and take it to the next meeting and address both of those points, the tournaments and the possibility that a homeowner could profit from using our facilities.
Agreed, Jack. Thank you. Perfect. So if we're all in agreement, this is going to be tabled. MO4 will be tabled and reviewed. With that, we'll move on to 4.07. For final revised RR&Ps. And Jack, I'm going to open up the floor to you.
Okay. I move that the governing board approve the revised RR&Ps, the rules, regulations, and procedures, release candidate version 2 as redlined.
Thank you, Jack. Board, any questions from the director? Oh, I'm sorry. Second, okay. We're now open for discussion from board. Kay, second. We got a second from Kay. So we're open for discussion. Nothing? I'm shocked. Oh, Director Novello.
Because I can't help myself. No, just wanted to add, we did discuss this extensively over the past 18 months or so, and in our last workshop especially. But just to repeat from the last workshop, I would like to thank the Charter Clubs Committee and everybody who worked on this diligently over the past 18 months. It's a step in the right direction, and so Director Leary, please pass my thanks to your committee again.
Thank you, Director Novello. Any other questions from the directors? No. With that, we'll open it up to the audience for questions. Again, please come to the mic, give us your name and rec card number, and sign in.
My name's David Bennett, rec card number 137887. I just want to appeal to the entire board one last time to allow commingling in softball. It saves all Sun City West owners money by less wear and tear on the facilities. More Sun City West members can play softball. Brings back 2 leagues that were dropped that we can no longer participate in when this was not allowed anymore, or when the last time it was revoked. Also, it allows for larger leagues, more fun in some of the leagues that don't have a lot of people signed up, like the over 70 league. There are just not that many over 70 people that are interested in the league. And it actually has fewer safety issues because now we play so many games on a certain day. We play late in the afternoon, and on that particular field, the sun is in players' eyes on the left side of the field, and it's a potential safety hazard because you can't see the ball. With commingling, by playing in two different facilities, it can be split up, some of the teams at one facility while the others are playing at the other, and games don't go quite so long in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Director Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I appreciate your comments. As we've said before, I believe the issue of, you're confusing the issue of commingling and reciprocity. They are two different things, and the items that you've discussed are available via reciprocity. Keep in mind that, and I don't know if this has changed, but the last I understood, Sun City canceled the reciprocity agreement with Sun City West. So what you're discussing is reciprocity rather than commingling.
May I respond?
Yes.
The commingling is not a term that should be used for what we did in softball. It's player reciprocity. Because how can, I can no longer play co-ed because there's not enough people to form a league over here to play the they have co-ed in Sun City. But they could come over here, but we don't have any teams to play with them. So by having all the people on any team they want to, it's still, it's individual reciprocity, people going over there and playing, people coming here and playing. We put as much wear and tear, more wear and tear on their facilities than they do us because there's more of us. And they're just, in the over 70 league, there's only 3 teams in the upper divisions. And again, there's just not enough, it's not as much fun. And so I don't like the commingling term because that's not strictly what we did in Sun City West softball.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I've asked Jack if he has time after the meeting. If you would like to, he's happy to speak with you after the meeting. Okay? Great. Oh. Okay. Sorry. Well, I tried, sorry. So, Jolie.
Jolene Piaskowski, 132268. I'm at a loss here because I didn't bring my new RR&Ps. Did we not take all of the tournament terms out of the new RR&Ps because of this new MO4?
The answer is no, we did not, because clubs can still do their own tournaments and their own leagues.
Oh, so it is still, because at that GM Ops meeting, you said that there will be no more tournament, and I haven't looked at it, so
Okay.
I mean, I'm
So
sorry about that.
keep in mind what Casey said. What MO4 covers has nothing to do with chartered clubs.
Okay, perfect. So MO4, getting back to that, just because, so MO4 will allow non-residents to play on our facilities, is that correct? Without having, like, when I play tennis, if I invite 3 people to play with me, those are my guests, and 1 RCSCW person's on court. On Apple League for pickleball, how does that work?
Under M04, you would be able to have what is termed commingling,
So, but softball can't?
because they are a chartered club. Chartered clubs cannot have commingling because all clubs must consist of Sun City West residents, cardholders only. And any team that is put out by a Sun City West chartered club must consist only of cardholders.
That's kind of muddy water to me. I mean, because it doesn't make any sense that we can open up our facilities to Apple, who's not a resident, who probably might not even have a resident playing on that court.
No, a resident does have to play on that court under MO4, and they also have to pay for that.
Okay.
Hold on a second, Matt. Keep in mind that we have chartered clubs and we have the proposed MO4. These are being discussed and put into place because these are things that cardholders want to do, and we're trying to facilitate that to make it as easy as possible for cardholders to achieve those things. So it's not that we're trying to confuse things, but there are some fine lines that have to be watched. But it's because we want cardholders to be able to do the things they want.
120, 520, Matt Schock. I just want to clarify a couple things with the softball club. We currently have co-ed. We're a co-ed league. Women are allowed to play with the men. It's whatever league they're in, whether they're rated. So it's already a co-ed league. The co-ed league Mr. Bennett was talking about is an extra game that other people weren't afforded. The second thing is the 70s league currently has 6 teams at 11 men per team or women. So that's 66 people. So it's not as skewed. There's plenty of participation. Plus we also have a lot of 70s players that just don't want to play. So it's available to play. Just want to clarify that.
Thank you. Looking to see if we have any more questions from the audience. Oh, we have one more coming. I know.
David Bennett, 137887. I just want to clarify Matt's comments. There was a separate co-ed league, but American League players weren't allowed to play because there was safety issues involved. Yes, there are 6 over 70 teams. There's 3 and 2 separate leagues. They don't play each other. There's only American Central and Central National. So there's still, you play the same 2 teams over and over again in one league or the other. He's saying that it's all a big group playing together. That's not true. And one other clarification, every Friday, anybody wants to from Sun City West softball is invited over Sun City to have games. It's commingled, you come, they pick teams, you play, it's fun. They allow that. They just don't want all the paperwork and things involved. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions, comments from the audience, I think we're going to go ahead and move this for a vote. Jack, if you'll read your motion one more time, please, then we'll vote.
I move that the governing board approve the revised RR&Ps, rules, regulations, and procedures, release candidate version 2 as redlined.
Thank you, Jack. So, Christine, I'm going to start with you for the vote.
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Karen, we're good? Thank you. Motion passes. I'm sorry, and I apologize. We're gonna, we have some online questions that pertain to the MO4, I believe it is. And I'd like to go ahead and address those.
Okay, is he going to read them?
Yeah, I think Alan will read them. Okay?
Okay, so we actually only have one, but it pertains to the prior topic, and it says, this is from DK and rec number 132106, and he says, if people are willing to pay the member, that's up to them. This is referring to a member who organizes tournament. If people are willing to pay the member, that's up to them. It is not the association's business to micromanage. There was then a subsequent comment, but the drafter withdrew it. So that is the only comment that was left hanging.
Thank you, Director Schlemmer. I'm going to assume he probably got his answer, that's why he withdrew. And then to answer that question, well, it will be the association's determination, because I believe ultimately RCSCW has to sign the paperwork when it comes through. If I'm not mistaken, it has to be signed off by the association, because the person requesting the tournament will have to show proof of liability insurance. So, moving on. We'll move on to 4.08, new capital addition recommendation, and that's Director Williams.
Thank you. The Properties Committee had previously submitted some changes that we wanted or suggesting that the governing board consider on the 24-25 budget. After we had submitted that, we were made aware of a situation that we needed to go out and re-inspect, and that was the tennis courts at R.H. Johnson, the 16 tennis courts there. All of my committee, thanks to the help with Carl and Russ, did a very thorough walkthrough of that, and after our walkthrough, we held a special meeting this past Monday, and it is the recommendation of the Properties Committee that we add $160,000 to the 24-25 capital budget to resurface the 16 tennis courts at R.H. Johnson. This is informational for the board to consider as we go to the next round when we have these discussions in further detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Williams. Do we have any questions for Director Williams or from the board? No? Okay. Move forward with 4.09. And it's a motion from Director Hammond.
I move that the governing board approve a 3-year contract with Mr. Peter Avias, otherwise known as Pete's Café. Contract start date contingent upon permit and certification approvals.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dick.
And if it's all right, I'd like to have Carl come up and clarify this and expand on it a little bit.
Of course. Thank you, Carl.
President Vines, good morning, Governing Board. It is our pleasure to announce that after doing interviews and after sending out the request for proposal for restaurateurs to submit, we had 3 qualifying candidates provide responses back. Members from the Sports Pavilion Committee, members from staff. We did some very thorough interviewing of those 3 applicants, and we asked them all the same questions. We all took very thorough notes, and at the end of that week's session of interviewing, we came to the conclusion, as Director Heyman has mentioned, that our recommendation as a group was to recommend Peter Avile, and he is the current owner of Puerto Rican Pete's. He would like to begin a business here under the title of Pete's Café, and we are encouraged to also know that yesterday we received the results of the survey. The survey's responses came in with approximately 2,700 consistent members responding to 100% of the questions, and the answers to those are broad and vast, but all very favorable to also the interview questions and responses that we asked. And we still feel that Peter Aviles, Pete's Café, would be the best restaurateur selected, in asking the governing board to sign a 3-year contract.
Great. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. So we'll open for director comments. Director Schlemmer.
Thank you, Carl, for the information, and thank you for the motion. In the interviews and so forth, and to the extent we're able to, I don't know what clauses or confidentialities we have. Can you give us a brief description of what Pete's Cafe, what type of eatery it will be, what type of menu, and if possible, how well did that tie in with what you learned from our community survey?
Out of the 3 responses, 2 of the interviewees, I believe, were able to afford us what we desired as a community, what we thought in advance of the survey results. Again, the survey results confirming that we're all on the same page. I have that data, but because of time restraints, we weren't able to present that. But you'll see that survey in the near future. But specifically with Pete Aveals, currently owning Puerto Rican Pete's, yes, he has a cultural focus on his food that he provides, but he was overwhelmingly willing to expand that menu selection to not only meeting our, base breakfast, lunch, sandwich kind of opportunities. We believe that he'll probably carry a little bit of his love for Puerto Rican food and Italian culture into his meals. So I think that's going to open us up to a wonderful menu for more in the dining sense. And his price point for some of his specialty foods like empanada, I think $3. So, and he brought samples not only of his specialties, but he also brought samples of his meat selected. And I'm going to say that even though they might have had a flair, they were very Americana also. It was delicious. Everybody, I think, agreed unanimously on that. The other things that he brings to the table that are very encouraging is his services provided. So he's more than willing to have a snack bar, which was talked about. We have an opportunity to have a service window for that. It already exists. The results from the survey unanimously said that we really would like to have service through a service window, carry out. And he's willing to also offer either an RFQ system or staffing that goes and kind of patrols the sports pavilion area and takes orders, carry out, delivery to those players, Lizard Acres support. So all things, answered all questions very solidly, and we're encouraged by this.
Thank you.
Director Rhodes?
Carl, I think you may have answered one of the 2 questions I have for you. So there will be a relationship with Lizard Acres. You talked about a carryout window, so I presume that means that if you're in Lizard Acres, you could walk over there, and if they're still open, you could carry something back into Lizard Acres?
That would be accurate.
Okay, good. So the other thing, and purely from a B&F perspective, and I don't know if you can answer it if Cliff will have to, and I'm not trying to divulge the rent that's due, although we'll probably learn about that. But the concern I have is financially, they're going to pay us rent?
Yes, they are, and they are going to also, for the very first time, cover all the gas expenses to the restaurant.
So there are utilities and that. And then the other thing is, we're not subsidizing it.
We are not.
Okay, because that's a key point. That's a key point. There's many of the communities have to subsidize their restaurants, and we are not doing that.
And just to make clarification, if providing utilities other than gas is a subsidy, then I would defer to Cliff on that.
I'm considering that as part of the rental agreement.
Okay.
So, okay, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Carl. Any other questions from the directors? With that, go ahead, Karen.
Oh, no, certainly. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack bar, and the opportunity for expanded services to support people within the sports pavilion, not just in the restaurant walls.
Go ahead, Director Rhodes.
Carl, how deep in the afternoon or evening is he planning to serve?
The hours in the contract are specified 7 to 8. He is aware, he is aware that We have bowling opportunities that go beyond 8, and we, as the rec centers and operations, will work with him if he sees that that's going to be profitable. He was interested in staying longer, but we also have operational hours of being able to close by a reasonable time too, so.
Well, I really commend everyone for moving forward with this. I think this is an area that we needed to pay attention to, try to fill that need. We've been in Lizard Acres before and we've always had a good time in there. But I think the idea that we're actually going to have the opportunity to have food in there and to be able to have food while we're in there with the entertainment. So, thank you.
Mr. Avila also was a excellent person to talk to. He was very confident, organized, gave his story of his past. Retired Marine, has a very strong interest in having that displayed in honoring our veterans in the community through the restaurant's decor. So we're encouraged by that.
Thank you, Carl. And I would like to thank not just you, but your whole team that worked on this. I mean, you guys did an outstanding job in bringing this forward. And having had the opportunity to look at the menu, I am very appreciative of what he is willing to offer the community, not just in the way of sandwiches, but turkey burgers. I mean, he's just really, I believe, outdone himself in the way of thinking outside the box for us from his point of view.
So my last comments is we're looking for a recommendation for the governing board.
We
to
are.
sign a contract for 3 years.
We are.
Thank you.
Do you have an online comment?
We do have some online comments.
Yeah.
Audience first.
Who wants to review? You want Alan to? Go ahead, Director Schlemmer. And then I'll go to the audience.
All right, so we do have, looks like 3 online comments. First one is Gary Bach, 135435, and he says, I believe Sun City West only sent out requests to a limited number of people. Why was that? You want me to read the rest, or do you want to just answer one of them?
Can you address that, or do you want Katie?
I believe that the rec center's staff feels very strongly that we put
Address
that
it.
out in every one of our news opportunities, RFQ code in the sports pavilion.
I believe so too.
So I think we did a very thorough job, and to have 2,700 responses is outstanding.
I believe so too, and if I'm not mistaken, I spoke in depth with Katie O'Grady on this as well, and they went to all the emails that I thought we had on file as well. Did they not, or just?
Can you clarify, Director?
Yeah, let me read his question again, and that may clarify it. He says, I believe Sun City West only sent out requests to a limited number of people. Why was that?
Oh, he's talking about the bid proposal.
No,
We
that was
put that
sent-
out
that
there,
was
and
sent out as an
we
open-
only received, if I'm not mistaken, 3 people responded. Is that correct,
Yeah,
Carl?
and we
Right.
directly sent it to candidates that we knew were
Right.
interested in at least reviewing it.
Correct. Okay.
All right, the next question is from Mary Gannett. Sorry about that. 133113. How was the restaurant space advertised? We just answered that. Will the contract be specific on hours of operation? We just answered that. And is there an out for the RCSCW if not working out for the community in the agreement?
Yes, in our contract, we have clauses for 30-day notification for, it's all legalese, but both for the vendor and for the rec centers, just like most contracts have a breach. If a breach happens, we have our verbiage in there for making reasonable stops of stop of contract.
And then we have one more, actually 2 more. And this is from Karen Poe, 133114. Already trying to expand the horizon. She says, will they potentially offer catering? we may not know the answer to that.
Well, Mr. Aviles does come with a food truck in his other portion of his business. So he did mention that he does that business in other areas. That's not really what our RFP was about, but it's possible.
I see Puerto Rican sandwiches well at the dog park. And then the last one, it's always nice to get a positive comment, so I'm going to read this. And this is from DK, who 132106, and he says, "Thank you for always looking to improve Sun City West and what we have to offer." Thank you for the positive comment.
Thank you. Director Novello.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up, because this was part of one of the owner-member questions. I did not hear this answered, although Alan said it was. Will the contract specify these hours of operation?
Yeah, it was that.
It does. I didn't hear it. Okay, everybody. I'm only one cup of coffee in, so
7 a.m.
I just wanted to clarify.
It's not
Thank
just
you.
us. I mean, they were listening too.
Thank you all, though.
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
It's in.
So-
Thank
in
you.
contract.
So the directors appear to have no more comments. Do we have any comments from the audience for Carl? Any questions? No? Okay. Wow, great, great. So, Terry, if you want to read, I was trying to remember who read the motion. Terry, if you'd like to read your motion, we'll take a vote.
I move that the governing board approve a 3-year contract with Mr. Peter Avias, otherwise known as Pete's Café. Contract start date contingent upon permit and certification approval.
Thank you. And Terry, I'm going to start with you.
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Yes.
Empanadas.
Is that a yes, Jack?
Yes.
Christine?
Turkey burgers.
I know.
Yes.
I'm right there with you, Christine, and I'm going to say yes, because I want to vote. So we are unanimous, Karen. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, moving right along, we're into 4.10, contingency strategy for Arizona minimum wage. I'm going to bet that's Cliff again. Welcome back, Cliff.
I know. Thank you.
Cliff, if you wouldn't mind holding on 1 second.
Sure.
We had one more comment pop up, and since it's on that, I want to answer it real quick before you start.
Okay.
Okay. Alan, if you wouldn't mind reading it.
Okay, we did get one more just as we started to move to the next topic. This is from Roberta Davidson, 112762. I'm getting better at reading these numbers. We already have 3 Mexican restaurants in Sun City West. Why another? I know it is Puerto Rican, but looking at their menu and at their other locations, it is no different.
Okay, I'm going to address that, and he is willing to, he has already showed us a menu. It's going to be broadened. It's sandwiches, turkey burgers, regular burgers, all sorts. He has really broadened his horizons on this, and I am really excited about this. So Roberta, I think you'll be very excited, and the prices are outstanding. Cliff.
Okay.
Knock us out of our seats.
Sorry, I've got empanadas on the brain right now. I could really go for one. Okay, so within the budget presentation, we've presented the budget multiple times, multiple meetings, budget and finance meetings to this governing board at the workshop, and one of the kind of highlights or sticking points or things to consider is an initiative that's currently out for signatures to get on the ballot, and that is to raise the Arizona minimum wage more than the standard inflation rate or CPI rate year over year. So what that means, I'm going to talk about what that means and kind of what the impact of that would be in our current proposed budget, and in addition to our current proposed budget, and how we would handle that if that would come to fruition. And the reason why we have to plan for it this way is I'll talk about the timeline, but basically we won't know before May. In fact, we won't know anything before July if this is going to get on the ballot, but we'll talk about that. So with that said, just want to remind everybody when we do when we look at our staff, our 489 employees, broken up into 33 different departments over 4 divisions, we have these types of employees in each of those divisions and departments. So we've got managers, we've got supervisors, and then we have other salaried employees, and then full-time hourly, part-time hourly, and minimum wage. The top 3 are salaried employees, and there's 41 of those. The rest of our employees are hourly employees, either part-time or full-time. So getting into what the actual proposal is. So basically, the process is there's a group of the organization is called Raise the Wage Arizona. They formed this in November of 22, and what they're trying to do is get enough signatures to put something on the ballot to propose an $18 minimum wage, and that would go into effect January 1, 2025. Essentially, this would be a game changer for us, for our expense structure, because I talked about earlier, 64% of our budget is attributable to labor. So this would be a very big rock for us to move if it happens. So, with that said, how would we address that, or how would we budget for that when we don't even know if it's even going to get on the ballot until July? And then if it gets on the ballot, we don't know if it would even pass in terms of get a majority vote in November when it gets on the ballot and they go to vote. So with that said, just wanted to talk to you about what that actual initiative is. Now, there's an initiative that would supersede that initiative, and it's also done by this group, which would take the normal minimum wage and add $1 to it for the next 2 years. So kind of more of a phase-in, but eventually you'd be at $18 an hour with that proposal, which would take about 3 years probably to happen, but at least it would be phased in over time. So this is the other initiative that's out there, and this will supersede that previous one that I talked about that would take it to $18 an hour January 1. So with that said, just to clarify, if both of these got the proper signatures through the initiative process, this one would supersede. If only one did, then whichever one did would get on the ballot. Okay? So let's look at 18 an hour. If the 18 an hour January 1 were passed and got on the ballot and then was voted on by a majority of people who voted in Arizona, what would the impact of that be on our wages, on our employee structure? So we talked about 489 employees. We would have to adjust 455 of those employees in addition to what's currently been proposed in the budget. So all of those different employee types that I talked about in the beginning, even this would reach all the way even into our salaried employees, where 11 of the 41 salaried employees would be impacted by this because of the compression that gets created when you take it from $14.35 an hour to $18 an hour. It's a big move. The financial impact of that in this year's budget would be an additional $825,000 if we had to do that as of January 1. So for January 1 through June 30, the second half of fiscal year 25 would be impacted by an additional $825,000. So just to reiterate the timeline, we find out July 3rd, those signatures are due, okay, to the Secretary of State. If the required signatures are collected, which is approximately 256,000 signatures, those signatures are validated, and by the Secretary of State, and the initiative is certified and it gets put on the ballot for November. Then if the majority votes for the increase in November, the Arizona minimum wage increase would be $18 and would increase to $18 an hour effective January 1. So we posed this question to BNF and to generate conversation and dialogue, and we did. We talked about it, and we had conversations, and you know, just to bring it to light, because again, all of this is going to take effect after we approve a budget. The budget's due in May 21st, I believe. The governing board votes on the budget. We won't even know if it's on the ballot until after July 3rd. So how do we budget for something like that? We just don't know. So that was kind of the question of the conundrum. So yeah, right. So you know, in this budget, we have 1.1 million going to our reserve fund. If $18 an hour happened, and we did nothing to this budget to account for that, what that reserve estimated reserve fund allocation would decrease by $825,000. Okay, so that's what would happen, and I've got it modeled out. I'll show it to you, but that would drop our fully funded balance percentage down to 45%. So, asked by the BNF committee, what's our contingency plan? What would we do if that happened? And so it really becomes hard to kind of figure out, because what do you do? I mean, you have to do it all on expense. Do you do it on capital spend? Because those both impact the reserve fund. So we came up with a contingency plan with minimal impact to the community, but would get us back to the 47% FFB in the event that this happened. And we could phase it in based on the timing of that timeline that I talked about earlier. So what would we do? So we proposed that in this budget, we've got roughly $600,000 in new capital spend. So when you spend money on new capital items, these are items that aren't on the reserve study. So if you decrease new capital spend, you get a dollar for dollar impact in your reserve because they're not on the reserve currently. Okay, so we could that's a dollar for dollar impact to our reserve fund, which would, if we delayed any new capital spend till first July 3rd to find out if it gets on the ballot, then till November 8th to see if it passes, and if it didn't pass, we can move forward with those capital projects, those new capital projects that get approved. If it did pass, put the brakes on them completely and don't spend money on new capital. Okay, so the reserve study items, we still spend, to keep the place looking nice. But the new capital items, we would hold off on those. And basically, if it did pass, we would revisit those the following year after we've had time to plan for 18 an hour for the full year. So that would have a $600,000 impact. So there's 600 of the 825,000. Another proposal is also to delay all allowance spending. So we have 420,000 for allowances for capital, for unplanned items. We're proposing to delay any allowance spend except for emergency purposes. So if we have an emergency, something that has to get done, a roof or something like that, a well pump, we do that. So we anticipate if we delayed allowance spending for emergency purposes only, we could save $125,000 in capital spend, which again is dollar for dollar. And so that would make up $725,000 of the $825,000. The other $100,000 will come from operations. We've got some parking lot seal and stripes and some golf cart paths in this budget in operations to the tune of $100,000. Those would be examples of items that we could delay that would have a minimal impact on the community, but would still have a cash impact to our reserve fund. And that would generate an additional $100,000. So the total of all that would be the $825,000. So this is what we're proposing as a contingency plan for 18 an hour. okay? So what does that look like on the modeling? I showed the modeling earlier, so I'll show it just for the budget. So in the budget, the current modeling is on the column all the way to the left, showing a 47% FFB percent, okay? The column to the right of that shows the impact of $18 an hour, which would decrease our estimated reserve fund allocation down to $275,000. All else being equal, that would drop our FFB percent by 2%, 45%. So the contingency plan is to the right of that, showing 100,000 savings in operations, showing a reduction of new capital spend of 725,000, which is allowances and the 600,000 that I talked about earlier. And then the impact of those are off to the right, showing a FFB percent back to the 47% if it were to take place. So this would be the contingency plan for 18 an hour if that happened. Now, if the superseded plan supersedes and it's $1 per year, the impact of that would be 100 to 150,000. We could weather that in our budget. So, that would be the plan for that. If it took place, we could weather that with the current proposed budget. But if it jumped to 18 an hour, this would be the contingency plan that we would put into place in the budget. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Cliff. Boy, that's an eye-opener, isn't it? Director Rhodes. No, go ahead.
Cliff, thank you again. This is the second time I've seen this. You presented it to us at Budget and Finance Committee. We found this to be very interesting. We didn't do anything with it simply because we were just kind of thinking about it and trying to mull around what we wanted to do with it. This is something I'm very concerned about. I'm sure everybody is very concerned about because this is the real deal. This is really an issue that if we don't deal with it and deal with it appropriately, we could be in serious trouble. This whole issue, and I won't comment $18 an hour is right or wrong, that's a moot point because that's the issue we're dealing with. The concern I have, I'm openly concerned about the dropping $825,000 that's not going to go into a reserve fund. Instead of putting 1.2 million, we're going to put 300,000 or something like that into the reserve fund. Our FFB is going to be 45%. The floor is 40. We're precariously close. We've been close like that. But unless we move, and now we're talking about subsequent years, not next year, because we can deal with next year. I'm worried about the following year and the following year, because this is adding, it could add as much as $1.3 million to our standing budget. Every year, it could add that much money. And it's something that we have to be very concerned about. I know that BNF will deal with this. We literally at our next meeting on April the 2nd, probably the only thing, perhaps the additional capital item we'll probably have to deal with, but I'm sure that we're going to deal expressly with the issue of the 25 budget, the FY budget. So, but those are editorial comments from the BNF that I think that I wanted to offer.
Yeah, and editorially as well, if you all remember back in 2016, Prop 206 in Arizona, Prop 206 went through the same process, got the signatures, got on the ballot, passed, and that took the minimum wage in 2017 from $8.05 to $10 an hour back then. So, yeah, this has happened before. I'd like to think that there isn't an appetite for this. I mean, but you just don't know. But you can go to a McDonald's and pay $8 for a Big Mac right now in certain places. So we're hoping that people realize that.
And could I say one other thing? And just as a matter of perspective, and I don't mean to do this as scare tactics, but when we look at adding $625,000 at least taking that away from the capital. You divide that by 27,000, that's the number, that's the amount of money in dues that we would have to come up with. So.
Thank you. Director Novello.
What's the expected timing? I believe that the governing board and the committees will be making some decisions as a part of the regular budgeting process. Am I correct? This would be a recommendation that we would provide through for our operating and capital budget. Is that our intention? I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to ask you ahead.
So that's a really good question. We'll want to deal with this sooner than later.
Yeah.
I think it's either May 21st or May 23rd. I'm not sure when we'll vote on the budget. We're really going to be in April, so we're going to have to deal with this right away.
Okay.
We were presented with it this week, and so yeah. So to quote one of our committee members, Dwayne Parsons. So what are we going to do with this? Really good question. What are we going to do with this? We're going to have to do something with it. And our entire meeting basically on the 2nd is going to be to discuss the 25 budget. And I assure you that this issue will be paramount, in that discussion. I can't tell you when, depends on our BNF committee. My guess is that we really should have something. We should try to have something on the 2nd, if not on the following meeting from that. I think after that, it's just too late.
Director Rhodes, do you think that you will have some sort of maybe a recommendation from the BNF committee for the workshop to bring forward, maybe?
When is our workshop? I don't remember the date on it. My guess is that on the 2nd, we should be able to walk away, and I don't know how the committee is going to react to this, but I know they're very engaged and very interested in it. I would very much like to have that, and we'll try to push for that.
Okay.
So if nothing else, we would look at this strategy, because I think that is kind of the elephant in the room, how we're going to deal with that.
Okay.
And I think Cliff has presented, and I've actually gone through this several times in my mind on what the best way to do this, how to handle this, and I really believe that you're probably about 90% there, Cliff. So, but we'll look at that, and we'll have BNF talk about it on the 2nd, and hopefully we're going to be able to have some kind of a recommendation.
Great, thank you, Director Rhodes. We'll look for that at the workshop. We'll take an online comment, and then I'll open it up to audience comments.
Okay, the online comment is from Dennis Horvath in 127115. And his question is, have we evaluated all employees for efficiency and the right number in the right places? No overages, question mark, thanks.
Yeah, yes. So a part of of course, as managers and the leadership here at the rec centers, I guess what I would say is it's part of our job to do that. So yes, we do. And it certainly wouldn't be something that we would wake up one morning and say, well, we got to look at our expense structure. So we do all the time. Now, if we're talking about changing what we provide, if we're talking about changing service, if we're talking about rec center hours and the services that we provide, the processes that we have on our golf courses for overseeding and things like that, if we're talking about that and we're talking about changing those, that directive needs to come from our board, and we can certainly present some things. But to operate how we do, to provide the services that we provide year in and year out, absolutely 100% is part of our job.
Thank you, Cliff. Appreciate it. Any questions for Cliff on Director Rhodes?
I want to add to that. Cliff is right. They do an internal review with staff, but the Budget and Finance Committee, the members are really pretty persnickety sometimes, and they'll look pretty deeply at the line items. And staffing is how would I say this gently? This is a very sensitive area that we look at, and we want to ensure that we have the right number, that there's no inflation, that we're going to be able to get the job done with the right number of people. So to say that the staff reviews it, I can tell you with a high degree of assurance, the BNF committee, the members are taking a very serious look at that as well. So I guess to a degree that's oversight, so, and we challenge Cliff without hesitation.
Yeah, within the budget presentation, there's a chart showing our FTEs, and it doesn't take you long to get back to 5 years ago when our FTEs were 322. Our FTEs are now 294 in this, 294. And so that tells you that we've changed and we're evolving, and we do look at that. I mean, COVID kind of changed everything. So yes, absolutely. I mean, we've had to restructure. We make moves all the time. We just made a move at one of our rec centers. We had a longtime lead retire, and we made a move where we combined that with the theater, that position with the theater position, to create an efficiency because we had the right person in that job. So that's just to give you one example of things that as we operate, we do. And we appreciate it when we get a budget, of course, passed, and we operate within that budget, but we're always looking for efficiencies, always looking for ways to do things better at a better value to the community.
And just to piggyback onto that, every month, I believe it is, Jack, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the directors receive an HR analysis report that we go through thoroughly, and we submit any questions we have to the board president, and I can assure you everybody does their job pertaining to that. That's what I have. So are there any questions from the audience on this issue? No? All right. Cliff, on 411, you are still up.
Okay. All right. Nothing to present today. We've presented the budget multiple times, as I said earlier. We had some great debate on Tuesday and some great Q&A. I will say there will be some changes coming to the budget. In this iteration, though, the budget is the same. Just to kind of give the community a heads up, we had some recommendations come through our committees that we're going to incorporate. Not only the $160,000 in court resurfacing in the capital side, but also, for example, in golf, we had a recommendation from them to align our member guest golf rate with our public rate. So that'll be a budget change on the revenue side. Another one expense change we'll talk about is we had a change in, we're very close to securing our liability insurance, our garage and liability insurance property. And that's coming in higher than we anticipated. We'll have a presentation on that at BNF, I believe in April, to explain what's going on there. But I'm sure I know mine has, I'm sure all your homeowners insurances have gone up, even though you haven't had any claims. So we're looking at that. We are in the process, though, of negotiating still, and we're also looking at the plan to see if there's some efficiencies, looking at our deductible limits, things like that to soften the blow there. But that will be incorporated in the next budget presentation, for example. So those are two changes that will be in the next iteration of the budget. Not big movers, though. Ultimately, this is the budget, and I'm happy to field any questions from this committee or the audience on the budget, the current proposed budget.
Great, thank you, Cliff. Any questions for Cliff on the budget? Great. Any questions for Cliff from the audience on the budget? Great. I think you're going to get off scot-free on this one.
Okay, thank you. Our next BNF meeting will be on the 2nd?
April 2nd.
April 2nd, and we'll present the changes. And again, happy to, I hope we get this type of audience because this is wonderful. But please come or watch online. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Appreciate it. With that, we're going to move into 4.12 regarding the governing board election ballot, and it'll be Riley, James Riley. Welcome, Riley.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just have a quick reminder for anyone that hasn't voted yet or is going to be voting in person next week that we are looking at the yes vote for us to retain the ability to regulate our streets here in Sun City West. That includes RV parking, utility vehicles, things of that nature. So I would just ask for your support on that. It's really all I have today. So thank you. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Riley. Appreciate it. So with that, we'll be on to 4.13. That's just a very brief summary update from me regarding the GM search special committee. Or Jack, do you want to give that? Since you're on
I thought
that
this was
committee?
from you, Lisa.
Well, I'm gonna throw it to you because you're actually on the committee. So
I'm on the committee.
I'm gonna throw it to you. Well, you can throw it to Terry if you want.
No, I won't do that. So yes, I'm on the committee. The search committee has met twice because this is a personnel issue. We, of course, meet in executive session. We have drafted a brochure, if you will, to entice candidates to apply for the position. We have engaged with a recruiting company that we used 5 years ago, and we've met with our recruiter multiple times. The committee drafted, as I said, the text for this brochure. I have received approval from the chair of the committee, Ann Brown, and I need to ask Lisa later if she approves it. If that's the case, then we're all ready to rock and roll and start soliciting candidates for the general manager position.
So to just add on, excuse me, briefly to that, right after this meeting, the board is going into executive session, again, to talk about personnel issues with the GM search committee and the interim GM position. So that is, number one, the board will be approving the brochure that Jack is referencing, and then also hopefully to approve the interim GM that we have several candidates lined up for the board to approve. So that's all I have on that. And with that, we'll move on to 5.01, and it's the for Director Rhodes.
This is a formality, but this is our financial report filings. The January and the February 2024 financials have been reviewed and accepted by the Budget and Finance Committee, and they have been filed.
Thank you, Director Rhodes. Requires no board action. So do we have any director comments? I have one, if I may, first. I'd like to, let me flip my page back over here. I made myself some notes during this. I'd like to take a minute, if I may. I'd like to acknowledge our general manager, Bill Schwinn. Tomorrow is his last day. He is leaving us. He is retiring, and he doesn't seem to want to come out from behind that pillar over there as I'm trying to get him to come out. But we'd like to thank him for his 5 years, and a little bit over, right? Maybe February it was, I think? January? Okay. Thank you for your service, Bill. We greatly appreciate it.
It is, it is. March Madness, right? Here we are. But really, I just want to thank you as the sitting governing board for everything that you provided as far as support and everything else for myself, as well as the staff, the folks in the back row. Great folks, absolutely a wonderful team to work with on a daily basis. They will be truly, truly missed. My Monday mornings will certainly be different. All of the funding, Todd has left the house, I think, but all of the work that the golf team puts together to make this Arizona's premier golf course retirement community goes, it doesn't go unnoticed, really. Sun City West is probably the best retirement community in the United States of America, and I truly believe that, and it's been an honor to serve here as your general manager. Truly, truly a neat place. Some of the money, we talked about budgets. When I first landed here, there was a line item in the golf budget that dealt with swans. So feeding swans, taking care of birds, taking them to the veterinarians and whatnot. Well, the only swan you need to worry about right there is the guy in the front row. His name's Cliff. So please take care of that. He is an endangered species, but what he's done to our finance division and our finance team, and Terry West back there, and Linda, and I don't want to forget names, so I'm not going to name everybody, man. But all the way back from the early days when we got rid of a CFO within a couple of weeks of my employment here because it was just kind of wobbling too much. Brought some people in. There's a gentleman who has retired, currently working at our golf courses, named Tim D'Angelo. I do want to give a hats off to him, man. He is a tremendous asset to this community. Still here. He is a resident, but does a tremendous job and is very, very brilliant. But that has transpired into what we have now, taking care of the financial resources that we have. Russ Boston in the back of the room with his team, they get more work done while you're sleeping than you'll ever know. Graffiti that you see on the bridges and whatnot coming up and down Bell Road do take place here in Sun City West, and those are taken care of before most people wake up. So hats off to his crew, and he's been here a very, very long time with more time to go, but he has a very senior staff that take care of this place and make this place look absolutely spanking new. And so a great team there, as is all of Todd's folks that take care of the golf courses. Really, everyone else on that back row, I mean, you can go down there, Katie, Casey, Martin, I mean, all the young folks coming in here getting some ground experience. I mean, what I've seen Martin grow, and he lives in a little room, dark room, and behind a curtain is called where we keep the M&Ms. But I mean, he has just done a tremendous job, and the growth of all of our younger employees have really came forward. So everyone in that back room, the 13 people in our management team that we deal with, like I said in our staff meeting on Monday, they're all wearing 3 hats. He talked about our full-time employees as far as where we were at one time. And right now, it's just a matter of complete efficiency that we try to accomplish on a daily basis. The hats that these folks wear, everybody's has a job title, I get it, but they're all doing 2 and 3 jobs. Carl, where's Wilhelm? Back there, you can't ask a guy to do a better job than what Carl Wilhelm does. Perfect project manager, saves you millions of dollars over a 5-year run. Does a tremendous job in recruiting the right construction folks to come in here and do the right jobs. And then he steps in and kind of rights the ship when it comes to our operational behavior, when it comes to managing recreation centers and the like. Guy's a wizard. I'm very grateful to know him, and I hope he stays around for a while. But, we all have time here, and we should really just all appreciate that. Time goes so quickly, especially for retirees, right? It really, really does. I mean, 5 years went by like that. And I've got, at my age, I think I still got some swing left in me as far as how far I can hit a golf ball, but that's going to change over time because I witness it every Saturday golfing with Terry. And so really take advantage of what you've got here. The nonsensical behavior that causes recall elections, which is caused by behavioral issues. That really kind of create a rift amongst the community. The association here is a five-star organization with five-star recreation people running the show here as far as making this an operationally efficient organization. And they shouldn't be subject to the abuse that they do. It's nonsensical to talk about where I park my truck. It's nonsensical to worry about a lot of the things that we hear on a daily basis, right? We got to stop talking about you, us, and them, man. It's a we thing. It's a we thing. And so I'm going to leave here today very, very proud of everyone that I've met, 5 years that I spent here, and thank you again. But when I walk out the door, there was $21 million in the bank when I came here. There's $28 million in the bank now, and we've enjoyed $35 million of improvements in the 5 years that I've been here. Handled 2 recall elections, handled a global pandemic, and a tax problem with the federal government of over $7.5 million. Tough decisions have to be made. That's why you hire a manager. If you want a yes person, hire a yes person, but you're going to find yourself in trouble. So yes, management does take a little bit of abuse. I'm good with that. I wore a basketball referee uniform for 15 years. I've been called everything, right? You got to make a hard call every once in a while. And so that's what I've done. I hear a lot of great compliments from people that are residents here and appreciate what goes on, and I will take those home with me for all that. As far as, the other kind of comments, they happen. That's just life getting in the way of life, right? So thank you again. Thank you. And again, thank you to the back row, Cliff, and all the other staff here. Out.
All right, so we are going to go to audience comment. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Director Novello has something.
Why not? While we're waiting for, just a quick reminder, Riley already mentioned this. The election is underway for online balloting. I believe today is the last day if you wanted to vote online, and Monday is our last day, right? 3 o'clock today is the deadline, 3 o'clock Mountain if you're watching remotely. So please, if you did intend to vote online, today is the last day for that, but Monday you can come and vote. So please do vote and take Riley's suggestions to heart when you're taking that vote. And thanks again. That's all I wanted to add.
Director Rhodes.
Yeah, I almost passed this up because I don't want to follow Bill Schwinn. That's just a tough one to do. I do want to tell you how thrilled I am that you're here. I mean, to see this size of a group in a meeting like this, what you're seeing is self-governance. Self-governance is difficult. It can be very difficult. You see 9 imperfect people trying to do a perfect job. And I don't think that's possible. We all have our issues that we deal with, but we all have your best interest in heart. I think you could look at every one of us up here, and everybody wants to do the right thing. So I say to the 8 candidates, buckle up. Buckle up, because 3 of you are going to be sitting up here. You got to have tough skin. And you have to speak your mind, and you have to be focused on the people that you're looking at. Because that's every day when I wake up, I think, what's the right thing to do? And that's what I try to do. You may not like it, but that's what I try to do. So I also want to invite you to the Budget and Finance Committee. Now, for those of you who like marathon sessions, we did 3 hours and 1 minute at our last meeting. I can't guarantee you how long it's going to be, but we took a bio break about an hour and 45 minutes in because we knew we had more to go. Well, you've heard already what we said we're going to try to accomplish. And This is a very big issue for budget and finance, the contingency. Everything is a big issue. But anyway, I thank you all for coming. I want you at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. I don't know what your motivation for coming today is, but I hope your motivation for coming at the next Budget and Finance Committee is the excitement of knowing that you could be part of the decision on how we plan our money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Rhodes. So now I'm going to do audience comments, and then we'll do online comments. Gee, Tom, I wonder what you have for us.
Well, last time I was here, I was asked about raffle tickets, and I didn't have any because we didn't have a car. But I'm happy to tell you today, I have raffle tickets for a 2004 Thunderbird, or $10,000 cash. Second place, $500. Third place, $200, which will be drawn on February 8th at our 2025 car show. The car is ice blue or something like that. It's convertible. It's in front of the ARC building, and tickets are $20 or $6 for $100. So I had to look because it's been so long since I've sold tickets. Already this morning, administration bought some. I've had some people buy some here in this room. So you got to get them quick because they're going fast. Thank you so much. Thank you, board. And thank you, Bill. You've been a real supporter of ARC and a supporter of our, I'll be sure to sell one before you leave. Good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Looks like we have another comment.
Hi, my name is Gwen Rhodes, 125791. Of the 8 people sitting here, 4 were not on the board in October of 2022, so a year and a half ago, when our Director of Library Services, and if you've not met Tracy, she's fantastic. She gave a presentation that entire board of 9 people were very enthusiastic about. And she talked about what she has seen in libraries across the country and where they're going to stay relevant. So her presentation is the October workshop 2022. Before you make your budget decisions this year, and I know it's a tough year, money is always tough, take a few minutes to look and see why those 9 members were so enthusiastic about what she said. She's talking about the fact that we have a community of people from 5 generations, and we have to stay, in order to be relevant, we have to stay relevant. So that's just my request, is that you take a few minutes to look at that. Yes, it's $100,000 that we're looking at this year, and yes, there's a possibility of $5 million. But we do look at things through the course of our lifetime here. But there have been projects that were on an R&R for over $2 million that we didn't hesitate a few years ago to do. So you just have to take a little, for a small group of people. So take the time to look at that. Tracy commented there are 7,000, I think maybe it was 7,000 users. That's second only or equal to golf. All of our clubs combined, at least in 2022, did not come up to the 7,000 individual people that use the libraries. So if we can do something for a few hundred people for some of our pickleball or tennis courts, we should look at 7,000 people that use our libraries and the new people and the relevance for going forward. And that's I have 8 seconds.
I can't see, so I'm going to take your word for it. I trust. Thank you, Gwen. Any other comments? No, I think we have a couple of online comments.
We do. Let me make sure I have them right. Gary Bach, 135435, has asked, will the community be able to see the brochure for the hiring of the new general manager once it is approved?
I will have to defer that question to the chairperson of the search committee.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Next one is from Mary Gannett. 133113. Can you please look to the corporate world for the new GM instead of looking for government experience? Those in the corporate world just think differently, better for efficiencies. And then she continues on to a second comment of, I sent a question to Lisa via email as it was too long to put in 200 characters. Can you read that, please, or should I put it in several boxes here to get it presented? And I don't believe we have access to email right now.
I apologize. I don't have access to my email while I'm up here.
I do, if you'd like me to read it on your behalf.
On my email?
She sent it to you and Don.
Oh, okay.
She says she sent it to Lisa via email.
Mhm. I have it if you'd like me to read it on Mary's
okay.
behalf.
Sure.
Mary Gannett, 133113. And I don't know why it was sent to just the two of us. Nonetheless, Mary Gannett, 133113. I am asking that the process of selecting and perhaps you can start the 2-minute timer to be fair. I'm asking that the process of selecting our committee members be improved. One person should not solely be selecting all of the committee members. The current process opens the door to them picking people they know. I'm sorry?
Christine, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop you here only because Mary sent me this in an email a while back, and I did forward this email from her to the GM or to the chair of the GM search committee and told her these questions would be addressed by the chair of the search committee because these questions can't be addressed by anybody else other than the search committee. So I don't think there's
Oh, this is about just committee selections in general. I'm sorry, it's not
oh,
about
I'm
GM
sorry.
search.
Okay. Go
Should I
ahead.
continue?
Yeah, please. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought it was about the GM search.
Oh, no, no,
Oh,
I
okay.
understand, and,
Oh, okay,
and
go ahead.
I do apologize. I don't know where I left off.
Well,
So this is the process of selecting committee members. One person should not solely be selecting all of the committee members. The current process opens the door to them picking people they know. People they know will go along with their ideas, or just picking people simply because they've been on a committee before. Everyone who submits the required form should be heard and considered equally. How do you know you're getting the best people for your committees unless you meet and speak with all of them? My proposal would be as follows. 3 directors are involved in the selection process of the committee members of each committee. 1 would be the chairperson and 2 additional directors, those 2 picked out of a hat. Every candidate that applies would be given an opportunity to meet with the 3 directors for an interview type session to discuss their experiences and reasons they feel they should be selected, each given the same questions, opportunities to speak in the same amount of time. This could take an hour or 2, but it's important we get the most qualified and knowledgeable people on our committees. After meeting with the candidates, the 3 directors take a vote, and the candidates with the most votes are seated on the committees. We need to make sure all residents have an equal opportunity to get on our committees. This process would make certain all things are handled above board with no favoritism, and that the best people for those committees are put in place. I realize this process may need some tweaking, but I would like to have you ask each director now if they have any objections to something like this being instituted, and a commitment from them to discuss this and to make every effort to have something like this put in place before the next committee members are selected. Thank you. And again, that's Mary Gannett, 133113.
thank you, Director Novello. And I apologize because I was thinking it was the email she had sent me earlier, so I apologize. The standing committees have a policy for choosing their committee members. So that would have to be addressed at the board level. We'll have to take that under advisement and look at how that policy is written, and perhaps looking at how that policy, if it needs to be tweaked, just per her words, we can do that. But and then the committee chair for the GM search committee, I've been asked this question multiple times. I did say it at the previous meeting, how it was done. Before President Hurley began serving his suspension, he and I chose the committee chair together. And then as per all policy, for the policy as well as how the standing committees do it, the committee chair chooses the committee members. However, that per the policy of the GM search committee, 2 sitting directors must sit on that committee. So those 2 directors were chosen in an executive session as well. And from that point on, Ann Brown, the chair of that committee, chose her committee members. It was shared with this board in an executive session. The board then directed the chair to add 2 more people to the committee because we didn't feel that the number of members on the committee was enough, and we asked her to add 2 more people. So the board did oversee what was going on with that committee when it was seated. Any more questions online? No. Okay. The board's next meeting is the April workshop on April 12th. Oh, I'm sorry. We have an audience question.
Aletha Delamo, 59669. I have never seen any advertisement that there's openings on any committees. I've never seen anybody asking for members to join. So how do members, if you don't attend every meeting of every committee, how do members find out that there are openings on these committees so they might be able to apply or discuss with those chair people? I can't hear you.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, towards the end of every year, so the committees end in June, but prior to that, the committees talk about it, but then it also gets published online for the committees will resume in September. So between June and September, all the applications are available online and it is advertised, and you fill out your applications. And I will share this past year between June and, or starting in July through August, end of August, I think it was. This was the best, I'll call it a crop, if you will, of candidates. We have never seen, I think it was golf, had 75 people apply for that committee. That was the highest one. And I think the next one was Kay Williams. I believe your committee was second.
47.
47 people applied for that committee. So, and you had 37 for BNF?
Apparently, I'm just not reading the right things. I read the Independent, I read the Rec Center News, and I don't always go online to find out what's going on. So I guess I should do that more often.
Let me find out, Karen, are we?
The application's always open, so it's on the governing board page on the Sun City West website.
On the governing board page on the Sun City West website.
But it's not publicly advertised
I'm going to
anywhere.
ask.
That's
Katie,
was my question.
is that something that
hope.
we can put in the Rec Center News? Okay, so I'll let Karen, perhaps you can make yourself a note to do that? Okay, Karen, thank you. We've asked Karen to do that. And so with that, the next workshop is April 12th, right here. And after that, beyond that, the governing board meeting will be April 25th. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Have a wonderful day.